My daughter-in-law called me last Tuesday, her voice trembling with barely contained panic. I could hear my grandbaby crying in the background and the distinct sound of pots clattering in her kitchen. Before she could even finish her first sentence, I knew exactly what was coming. It's the same thing every year, like clockwork, right around this time when the weather turns cold and the holiday lights start going up in the neighborhoods. She asked me if I could help her prepare for Christmas dinner. My son and his family, along with his two brothers and their wives and kids, were all planning to descend on her house for the big celebration. That's 17 people, if you're counting. 17 people expecting a full, traditional Christmas spread with all the trimmings. The kind of meal that takes days to prepare and leaves your kitchen looking like a disaster zone. Now, let me give you some context here, because this isn't just about one dinner. This has been the pattern for the last 6 years since my son got married. Every single holiday, every birthday, every special occasion, somehow it always ends up being hosted at their house. And somehow it always ends up being her problem to solve. I've watched this young woman run herself ragged, trying to please everyone, trying to live up to some impossible standard that nobody ever actually asked her to meet, but that she felt obligated to achieve anyway. Last Thanksgiving, she was up until 3 in the morning preparing dishes. She made 3 different types of potatoes because she couldn't remember who liked what. She baked pies from scratch because store-bought wasn't good enough. She hand-folded napkins into little turkey shapes, for crying out loud. And you know what happened? My other daughter-in-law showed up 2 hours late with a bag of rolls from the grocery store, and everyone praised her for contributing. Meanwhile, my son's wife was so exhausted she barely ate anything herself. So, when she called me this time, I heard that same exhaustion in her voice, that bone-deep weariness that comes from being the person who always says yes, who always takes on more, who always makes it work somehow. She started listing everything she needed to do. The deep cleaning of the house because people would be judging. The menu planning that accommodated everyone's preferences and dietary restrictions. The shopping that would require trips to multiple stores. The cooking schedule that would have her starting preparations 3 days before Christmas. And then she got to the part about the in-laws. Not me, I should clarify, the other side of the family. Apparently, her mother-in-law had some very specific expectations about how Christmas dinner should be done. Traditional recipes that had been in their family for generations, a particular way the table should be set, even opinions about which brand of cranberry sauce was acceptable. None of this was being offered with help, mind you, just expectations, just pressure. Just one more weight on shoulders that were already buckling. I listened to all of this, and I felt something shift inside me. I've been watching this pattern play out for too long. I've bitten my tongue too many times when I wanted to speak up. I've played the role of the supportive mother-in-law who doesn't interfere, who doesn't rock the boat, who lets the younger generation figure things out on their own. But sometimes staying silent isn't supportive. Sometimes it's just enabling a bad situation to continue. So I took a deep breath and I said something I'd been thinking about saying for years. I told her I wasn't going to help her prepare Christmas dinner. I could hear the pause on the other end of the line, that moment of confusion mixed with hurt. She started to apologize, thinking maybe she had offended me by asking, but I cut her off before she could spiral into that familiar pattern of over-apologizing for everything. I told her I wasn't helping, because there wasn't going to be a Christmas dinner at her house this year. Not the way she was planning it. Not with her shouldering the entire burden while everyone else showed up as guests. I told her she was going to do something revolutionary this year. She was going to say no. You could have heard a pin drop on that phone call. She actually laughed. That nervous kind of laugh people make when they think you're joking, but they're not quite sure. Then she realized I was completely serious, and the panic really set in. She started listing all the reasons why that was impossible. The family would be disappointed. Her husband would be upset. His mother would never understand. Christmas would be ruined. Everyone would blame her. I let her get it all out. All those fears that had been keeping her trapped in the cycle. Then I asked her a simple question. I asked her when was the last time she actually enjoyed a holiday. Not just got through it, not just survived it, but actually relaxed and enjoyed being with family, enjoyed the celebration, felt the joy that holidays are supposed to bring. She couldn't answer. She started crying right there on the phone. Quiet tears at first, then full sobbing. She admitted that she couldn't remember the last time a holiday didn't feel like a marathon she had to run. She couldn't remember the last time she sat down at a holiday table and didn't mentally catalog everything that still needed to be done. She couldn't remember the last time someone thanked her, really thanked her for everything she did. That's when I made my announcement. I told her that I was going on vacation for Christmas, booking a cabin in the mountains, somewhere with snow and quiet and absolutely no cell phone service. I was leaving 3 days before Christmas and not coming back until after New Year's. And since the holiday dinner was traditionally hosted by my son and his wife, well, they were in charge now, completely in charge of deciding whether it happened at all, and if so, how and where and who did what. The beautiful thing about this plan was its simplicity. I wasn't picking sides, I wasn't creating drama, I was simply removing myself from the equation and letting the chips fall where they may. If my son wanted to host Christmas dinner for 17 people, he was welcome to do all the planning, shopping, cooking, and cleaning himself. Or maybe he'd realize how much work that actually was and suggest something different. Maybe they'd go to a restaurant. Maybe they'd have a potluck where everyone actually contributed equally. Maybe they'd decide to do something smaller and more manageable. The point was, it was no longer automatically her problem to solve, and she no longer had me as a safety net to help make the impossible possible. I told her this was her permission slip to say no, to set boundaries, to prioritize her own sanity and her own family's well-being over everyone else's expectations. She asked me what she should tell people, and I told her the truth. Tell them that Christmas at their house isn't happening this year. Tell them she needs a break. Tell them that if they want a big family gathering, they're welcome to organize and host it themselves. Tell them that she'll be spending a quiet Christmas at home with just her husband and baby, actually enjoying the holiday for once. The reaction was exactly what you'd expect. My son called me, confused and a little hurt. Why wasn't I coming to Christmas? Had something happened? Was I upset with them? I explained calmly that I was taking a vacation, that I was allowed to have my own plans, and that just because I had always come to their Christmas celebration didn't mean I was obligated to do so forever. I reminded him that his wife had been hosting these gatherings for years and might appreciate a break. That's when it got interesting. He hadn't actually thought about it from that angle. In his mind, they were hosting together. They were a team. But when I started asking specific questions about what he had done to prepare for the last few Christmases, the answers were pretty sparse. He'd helped set up tables, he'd carved the turkey, he'd entertained people once they arrived. But the planning, the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning before and after, that had all been her. His brothers called next. They were worried about Christmas being canceled. Where would everyone go? What about the kids expecting their cousin time? What about tradition? I told them the same thing I'd told my son. I was on vacation. If they wanted a Christmas gathering, they were welcome to organize one. Their wives were perfectly capable of hosting. Or they could split responsibilities. Or they could do something completely different. The other grandmother called, the one with all the expectations and traditions. She was not pleased. She implied that I was being selfish, that family came first, that this was setting a bad example for the younger generation. I listened politely and then reminded her that she was also welcome to host Christmas dinner at her own home if maintaining these traditions was so important to her. The line went very quiet after that. Here's what happened next. For about a week, there was chaos. Phone calls back and forth between family members, group chats lighting up with messages, everyone trying to figure out what to do. Some people were angry at me. Some were angry at my daughter-in-law for not just agreeing to host again. Some were angry at my son for not having a solution. It was uncomfortable. It was messy. It was exactly what needed to happen. Because for years, everyone had been comfortable with the arrangement, comfortable showing up to a beautiful meal in a clean house with everything handled, comfortable contributing minimally while enjoying maximally, comfortable because someone else was doing all the uncomfortable work. Now that comfort was disrupted, and people actually had to think about what went into creating these celebrations. My daughter-in-law called me in tears again, but different tears this time. She was being pressured from all sides to just host Christmas like always. People were telling her she was being difficult, that she was ruining Christmas for the kids, that it wasn't that hard to just do what she'd always done. And she was starting to cave, to feel guilty, to consider just giving in to make everyone happy. I asked her one question. Would giving in make her happy? Would spending another Christmas exhausted and underappreciated make her feel good? Would teaching her daughter that women should sacrifice their own well-being to manage everyone else's comfort be the lesson she wanted to pass on? She said no, so I told her to hold firm. Eventually, a solution emerged, but not the one anyone expected. One of my other daughters-in-law, the one married to my middle son, stepped up. She said she'd been feeling guilty for years about how little she contributed to these gatherings. She offered to host Christmas at their house, but with a major change. It would be a true potluck. Everyone would sign up for specific dishes. Everyone would contribute to set up and clean up. The work would be shared. My son and his wife were invited as guests. Just guests. They could bring one simple side dish and show up to enjoy the celebration. No cleaning their house for visitors, no days of cooking, no stress. Just showing up and being part of the family. I watched all of this unfold from a distance, keeping my vacation plans firmly in place. And you know what happened? They figured it out. The family adapted. The gathering happened just differently. And from what I heard later, it was actually more fun because the work was distributed and people appreciated what went into it. My daughter-in-law sent me a message on Christmas Day. She was sitting on her couch in her pajamas at noon, drinking coffee while her baby played with wrapping paper. She said it was the best Christmas she'd had in years. She actually felt rested. She actually enjoyed getting ready to go to the dinner later. She actually felt like a guest at a celebration instead of staff at an event. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone isn't helping them carry an unfair burden. It's refusing to help them carry it, so they're forced to put it down. Change is uncomfortable, but sometimes discomfort is exactly what's needed to break patterns that don't serve anyone well. My vacation didn't ruin Christmas. It saved it.